Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rola, and today I'll be presenting my community service project titled Segregation for Equality in Jordan's Education System. Okay, here's what I will be covering today. I will explore first the paradox of sex segregation versus equal opportunities. We will take an overview of Jordan's education system, historical events that shape this system, and the root causes of sex segregation. On the other hand, we'll explore the equal opportunities section, where I'm going to examine the opportunities provided by sex segregation and access to higher education, especially for females. And finally, I'll introduce my proposed intervention, D1 Social Club. So let's start with an overview of Jordan's educational system. Jordan has three types of schools: public, private, and international. Moving forward in this presentation, I will be mainly focusing on tackling sex segregation in public schools. And there are 4,005 public schools in Jordan, with 1.6 million enrolled students in 2024-2025 academic year, according to Jordan Times e-newspaper. Students start attending segregated classes post-grade 3 in public schools. But how does public schools really look like in Jordan? According to a report done by the National Center for Human Development and USAID, public schools in Jordan are overcrowded, with a student-to-teacher ratio of 31.7 to 1 per classroom. Schools are also underfunded by the Ministry of Education, leaving them with poor infrastructure and teaching resources like lack of computer labs, libraries, ICT tools, and internet connection. This timeline shows the pivotal historical phases that shape the education system in Jordan. First, we have in 1956 the establishment of Ministry of Education. Then we had the institutionalization of sex segregation in the 1960s, when the government passed the Education Act number 16 that states education for the first 9 years in schooling become obligatory and free for both sexes. Thus, the demand of schooling increased in rural and urban areas for both female and male students started attending segregated schools. Also, we have the Islamization of curriculum in the 1980s that was influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood intervention in policy making in Jordan, changing the school curriculum to reflect a stronger Islamic values. Lastly, we have a major reforms happened in Jordan and was co-funded by international donors called Education Reform for Knowledge Economy, phase 1 that happened in 2003 and phase 2 that happened in 2009. These reforms aimed to modernize the school curricula and introduce technology in classroom. However, these reforms did not tackle nor target the sex segregation issue in schools. Moving on to the root causes of sex segregation. First, we're going to start with the religious part. Governmental institutions in Jordan are built on religious foundation, and this is usually reflected in their operation. For instance, this is a screenshot of the Ministry of Education of Jordan official website, where it states that the philosophy of education stems from the constitution and Arab Islamic civilization. Then we have the cultural norms in Jordan. Jordan's societal structure is characterized by tribal and conservative norms that also has influenced shaping the current school system. Lastly, we have the political pressure to align the education system in Jordan with the religious and cultural norms in the society, claiming to preserve the society's values. But this structure comes at a cost and have negative implications on various aspects. For example, behaviorally, studies show that males in single-sex schools tend to show more aggression compared to males in a mixed schools. This is exemplified by the recurring aggressive incidents that happened in male Jordanian schools. Like what happened recently in March of this year, when two students poured kerosene on their 11-year-old classmate and set him on fire inside the school premises. This is a picture of the student who got burned by two classmates when the Minister of Education paid a visit to him. Additionally, attending segregated classes limits students' social skills due to limited interaction between both sexes. This will also affect their psychological state, increasing their social anxiety and emotional repression when being in a mixed environment. Also, segregation affects the economy since it promotes sex stereotypes and reinforces the roles of females and males in the workforce. For example, females in Jordan tend to pursue a career in education and nursing, while men decide to pursue careers in STEM, which will affect in the long run the economic growth and national productivity. Moving on to the second part of my paradox, which is the equal opportunities that sex segregation provided for females. While it's true that sex segregation have negative implications on students and the economy, but the aim of it was to ensure that females have equal access to education like their male peers. And the aim was achieved successfully, since the number of females in school is equal to male students, or even sometimes in some years exceeding it. Not only that, according to a study done as part of the Education Reform for Knowledge Economy Phase 2, female students in school scored higher on average in the main subjects in the national test compared to their male peers, as shown in this graph. Also, this had a positive influence in female enrollment in higher education in Jordan. The number of students enrolled in higher education in Jordan is 344,796 students, in which females contribute to 56% of, higher than their male peers. However, despite the outperformance and the high percentage of enrollment in higher education, female participation in the workforce in Jordan is 14% compared to their male peers, which is 61.2%. So we're now left for this question. Did actually sex segregation in schools provide equal opportunities for both sexes in the long run? I think I'll leave this question for the audience to answer. But what can we do as a community to help minimize the impact of sex segregation on students? My proposed intervention is the Diwan Social Club. Diwan is a traditional communal gathering space where families in Jordan celebrate weddings or mourn losses. It's also used for conflict resolution between the members of the community and for storytelling and discussion. Our mission will be to create a generation of socially and emotionally empowered youth who are equipped to collaborate, communicate, and coexist in a shared Jordanian society. Our vision is to have a structured after-school program that brings together male and female students from segregated schools into a culturally familiar setting modeled after the traditional diwan, where it will take place. So the club will first start in an actual diwan in my neighborhood located in Amman, Basman district. And this is the picture of the diwan. Our target group is 10 to 18 years old students attending segregated public schools who will typically have a 2-hour weekly sessions after school or on the weekends. We'll first start to promote for the club in the neighboring public schools with help from the schools itself, also by distributing brochures explaining the club vision and mission. What are the club activities? We will have different activity each session, like problem solving challenges, toolbox workshop facilitated by a school counselor, where students will learn how to name emotion, practice how to deal with it, and many other activities that will help them overcome the negative implications of sex segregations. To wrap up my project, I tackled sex segregation, the historical events that shaped it, root causes, and implications on students. Then we moved on the equal opportunities provided by sex segregation. Then we will have my D1 social club who will promote for a shared Jordanian place for students to communicate and come together. Thank you for listening.